marriage.
All right, babe. Well, for this week's segment of your book, I don't know how this can correlate to a man.
I think it could, but
Okay.
Anyway, this chapter
Lessons from Childbirth.
is called Lessons from Childbirth, and pretty much
breathe.
Well, that's a good lesson.
Yeah,
yes,
that's good.
If you spend any amount of time with women, you'll hear at some point they
have a childbirth experience.
Everybody's going to want to talk about childbirth.
Yes.
It's just
Yes.
it's something
Sorry, ladies, but we don't want to hear about it.
Well, it's something we all can relate to, and it's interesting, and it's something that we care a lot about.
Is it interesting?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Because every birth story is unique. So
Every birth story?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sure.
I had 7 kids, and each birth story was different. It's like I remember where I was. I remember what happened.
It is interesting how some of these chapters line up with exactly what we're talking about. Like we're talking about the new birth.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway.
Yeah. So anyway, but when I was growing up, I wasn't really taught much about childbirth. And so when we started having kids, I didn't know about natural childbirth. My mom had given birth naturally, but it wasn't something we ever talked about. And so, we had 7 kids in 8 years. So the first few, I didn't really...
It was accidental. They just came out.
It wasn't accidental,
Oh.
but I didn't really understand childbirth very well.
What is there to... what do you mean?
I didn't understand, there are coping mechanisms, things that you do, like you say, breathe. Okay, well, that's
Okay.
great, but there's a little more to things that could help you through childbirth than...
we just said, go in there and tough it out.
Yeah, well, there are things that can actually make it a little easier. But the thing about childbirth is that when you're in that place and you're pregnant and you're about to give birth to this baby, there's nothing you can do to stop it. You can't escape what's about to happen. The baby can't just stay in you forever. So it's inescapable at that point, but there are things that you can do to make it a little easier and to make it not quite so unbearable to deal with. And so we learned those things, and that actually helps a lot. And so with this chapter, I was actually talking about in life, there are things that we go through, and with our husbands sometimes, frustrations. Or
what are you talking about?
In theory,
okay.
I don't know personally, but anyway, there are things that we go through, and it's with marriage, there actually is an escape. You can divorce. But for people that are like, okay, I'm not just going to divorce my husband because things are bad.
Well, it's not even just divorce. You could check out.
Well, exactly.
Right.
But there are things that you can do that can actually make it a little more bearable, make it a little easier. And so it's just as in the same way you learn from childbirth that there are things that can help in marriage or even just in life, apart from marriage. There are things that we go through, struggling with kids and not knowing what to do, for homeschooling or how to raise them, or just all sorts of things that we face. It's there are ways that we can learn that can help us go through those things a little easier. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Oh, yeah.
So, I do think that could be applicable to men as well.
I
because
guess
they
I'm
also
just still
go through
thinking that you
things.
just compared, guys to childbirth, and that you just have to endure and get through it and cope.
It's not like that, but there are times where things can be
No, I get
difficult.
it. I understand
And
exactly.
so-
Right. No, there are going to be moments, quite possibly, where you're going through a season where it might be a frustration. Maybe it's only a couple days. Maybe it's a couple weeks. Maybe it's a couple months.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, things can drag out for a long time. And how are we going to deal with all this?
Well, and also with childbirth, since that's what it's about, it helps to talk to people who have had children before, and to read books or to whatever from people that have had experience. Well, in the same way in life, with marriage, with raising kids, it helps to go to the older people and to say, hey, I see you've been married 40, 50, 60 years. Maybe these people have learned a thing or two, and I could gain some knowledge from going to them and finding out what helped you through, because I'm sure at some point there were frustrations and problems. And so what helped you through? And so I feel like that can be a big help if we find out and then we apply those things to our own lives.
Right. No, that's good.
Anyway.
Absolutely. Okay, check out the chapter. It's what lessons you learned from childbirth. If you're following along, if you just enjoying it, that's fine. But you can get the book. You can run in flip-flops, but is that the best way? You can find it on Amazon or in the description below. And but anyway, all right. Thanks a lot.